Okay, everybody, welcome to another edition of Unstoppable REI. I am here with Dixie Decker. Now, Dixie and I had a meeting the last time, but technology squashed it. But we are back. Sound is working, everything's good. So here's probably the most important question that I'm going to ask you this whole time, Dixie, and that is, how was Garth Brooks?
Oh my gosh, it is the most important
I
question.
told you. I told you.
Um, Hands down, I think I'm not a big concert goer, but
Okay.
for a concert, this man puts out the favorite hits. He doesn't play stuff no one wants to hear. He plays
Okay.
what you want to hear. And it's just, it's not a big theatrical performance, which I really appreciated. He pulled out all the stunts. Trisha Yearwood showed up.
Wow.
Uh, it's just raw talent and a great performance. We absolutely loved it.
That's crazy. So he basically just sang all of his best songs,
He
and
did. He didn't
yeah,
miss one.
really.
Yeah, it
So
was really cool.
it's interesting you mentioned not being a huge concert goer because I'm not either, and but I love music, and
Yeah.
my one of my favorite artists. I happened to go to one concert. Somebody talked me into it, and that was Michael McDonald. And I went there, and I maybe shouldn't even said his name, but it was great. I know, but anyway, my point is, I love him, but he sang like I want to say 60% new material, 70% new material. So it was like, what is going on? Anyway, so that didn't make it that
No,
far, but I
that
still love it.
happens, and I feel like that's disappointing when
Yes,
you're going for the favorites, and so
right.
I felt like he really put on a show for the people,
That
not
is
for his
really
own.
good.
Yeah, it was for his benefit, but not for his own future benefit.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was what the people want to hear,
that's
which
good.
is cool.
All right. So now we'll get into all the lesser important questions. All right. So here's the deal. So we gotta get serious. All right. So tell me, I mean, give me your 30-second elevator pitch. I mean, not necessarily 30 seconds. I mean, it could be longer, but just tell me your story, how you got started. Just give me the story.
I'm going to give you the super short version.
Okay.
I'm certain people can find the longer version on YouTube and such, but
Okay.
it's that cliche rags to riches type
Okay.
infomercial. In 2010, got divorced, single mom, 2 kids. I was raised the all American dream. I was the black sheep of the family. I didn't graduate college. I was now the divorced one. I had to
Mm,
file bankruptcy. You name it, I have all those terrible badges of honor that I now see them that way because it wouldn't be where I was without them. So, I had like a 750 credit score prior to 2010, lost everything, came out of a physically abusive, emotionally abusive relationship.
okay.
There was drug and alcohol abuse. I've got it all. And so I met my mentor in 2013, Ron LeGrand, and
Oh
went
my
to a one
gosh.
day,
Ron
yep, went
LeGrand.
to
We have to talk about that. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
one day seminar, and he was talking about owner financing, lease options,
Yeah.
subject to wholesaling. And I thought, I only know traditional real estate. I had a great credit score prior to all of that. So I knew how to go to the bank, get a loan,
Okay.
buy a house, put carpet in it, tear out wallpaper, paint the walls. That's a rehab back then.
Yeah.
And I thought when I lost my whole world, I thought I'll never get to do real estate again.
Okay.
And then I met Ron. So I went back to the hotel room and I was just crying, and I thought there's hope. Like,
Wow.
I had no idea this world existed. So
Okay.
that's 2013, 2014. We went gangbusters and kind of started the company that we have now, officially started it.
Okay.
We had no money. So I had actually, in the meantime, ran into my best friend from 7th grade.
Mm,
And he and I started doing this together. He is out of the military at the time. He was broke and living on a friend's couch. We just had nothing. So we had no option but to wholesale lease options subject to private money, really implement the things we learned.
okay.
Interesting is he had gotten that GI money, like to go back to school after he got out of the military. So him and one of his battle buddies was rehabbing a house next to campus.
Okay.
And he was telling me about this, and I thought, you're insane. Can you get insurance on a house next to campus? Like, these college kids destroy stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's no problem. This is how much we're charging in rent.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I can do math, right?
Right.
And so anyways, we started dating. We opened this business together. And the piece that we learned was Ron LeGrand did not teach student housing, but
Okay.
he combined student housing as our exit strategy to picking up things that were owner financed
Yeah.
and lease option. And we marketed to college kids.
Wow.
And we just never quit. So now, fast forward, we have over 300 some tenants. I don't even know how many properties we have anymore. We have created an exceptional cash flow. We have staff. We are not broke, and we are not living off someone else's couch. We have since gotten married in Jamaica and had a shindig of a wedding, and
Wow.
life is totally different. So I share my story with people because my husband, when I used to teach on stage,
Yeah.
and teach student housing and go to REIs and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not a public speaker. I actually skipped that in high school and the couple years of college that I did. And he said, your goal is to give one person hope, no matter when you speak or who you speak to, that there's something after you go through all those terrible things. So you just have to change one life.
Wow.
So that's why I kind of share my story, because I was also raised, you don't talk politics, religion, sports, or money. So I violate just about all of them.
Right, broke all the rules. Yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of the shortest version I could give you of my story.
I absolutely love that. And a couple of things stood out. First of all, it's not very often. I kind of perked up when you said Ron LeGrand, because most of the real estate investors that I talk to don't know about Ron LeGrand. And because, the Ron LeGrand students, that's the kind of a whole nother world. You know what I mean? Although he is kind of the grandfather of, I think, creative financing. I mean, what is the term? Transaction engineers. But anyway, but most people don't know about that. But anyway, so I love that, and we're gonna have to have a part 2 and 3, because I'm gonna want to talk about that. Also want to talk more about Garth Brooks, but we'll talk about that. But the other thing is that you talk about just changing one person's life. I mean, my whole motto, kind of my goal is to lower the 95% real estate failure rate one podcast episode at a time. So that kind of is in the same ballpark. It's like this one person. Yeah, you can't do it all, but you can do one, and that's something that's easier to grasp. And it's like, okay, I can do this. Like, I can just take one more step, just do one more thing. So anyway, so I absolutely love that. So tell me, what is one thing that you wish you would have known when you got started?
So I'm gonna do a disclosure. So every time I do a podcast, you guys send me questions and let me preview them, and I never preview them because I love to just share with my answer is never the same, and I like to share kind of what's on my heart at that time.
Sure.
I still, in real life, do real estate.
Okay.
So every day is something new. It's never the same.
Sure.
So that's what I wish I would have known.
Okay.
I met these gurus, and not including my mentor, Ron, but I met many other gurus that really aren't doing the business anymore.
Okay.
And that was so disappointing to me, because this real estate market is, yes, there's some very standard things, but it's changing.
Sure.
Every day is different. And so if you're following someone who's not freshly doing real estate, it may not even be applicable. And that a lot of times they're like, hire an assistant and you're just going to make millions. Follow this script and you're going to make millions. Pardon me, you're going to go work your ass off first.
That's right.
And then the money will follow. So if you think you're going to read a script and hire a virtual assistant and make millions, it's just another pipe dream.
Yeah.
And so when I held all these events and taught and stuff, I was very transparent. When I came out of Ron's program, I worked a lot of hours,
Yeah.
60, 80, 100 hours a week. And the things you can learn in any event, there's always more to it in
Sure.
real life.
Yeah.
No one can ever cover it all, but I'm always very transparent. This is what you're going to run into. Yeah, you might get
Yeah.
a deal under contract, but then here's 60 road bumps you might run into.
Right.
And as long as you're willing to continue solving a problem, you will be in the elite. It's
Yeah.
the people that take no for an answer that go, I can't do this.
Sure, sure. You know, it's interesting about that. I saw a picture that I actually posted today or yesterday, and it was a picture of like a mountain on the top of it. It was like in the middle of the ocean. You know what I'm talking about?
I
Where,
do.
yeah, and so it's like people think that success is real easy. Just for the sake of the podcast, I'll say it. So the ocean, it's in the ocean. It's a big mountain, and you see a little tip of it above says success, but underneath it's I don't know. It goes way way down, and there's all these other problems and failures and risk and work and all this stuff. So,
Yep.
and the idea is like what you're saying. People think that success is. I mean, they just see the big cars and the I don't know multiple closings and the big checks that people are posting online, but nobody's really talking about all of the car like I said, well 100 hours in a week that you're working to get that deal. And but the mastery, I mean the the skill that you develop in that time that you can't, I mean you can't, there's things that I mean you can only go one way. It's like I can't do push-ups for somebody else, it's like, but if you do the work, you're going to get that experience that you couldn't have got any other way, and that no one else that didn't go through that's going to have. I mean, so it's really really important. So let me ask you this: what would you say is your biggest failure, and what you learned from that?
Oh, biggest failure.
Yeah.
That's so hard.
Okay.
It really is hard. So I think along the way, there's always a lot of small failures.
Oh,
I
sure.
think
Yeah.
what I very much excel in is that I believe there's really not failure,
Yeah.
because I teach my staff I can fix anything if I know about it.
Okay.
So I think, maybe some of the biggest failures could be obviously the obvious ones, like you overbought a property, right? You
Yeah.
paid too much of it out of emotion because you just wanted a deal.
Right. Right.
Even that, though, can be saved by different
That's true.
exit strategies.
That's true.
I've been in business with the wrong people, and
Okay.
I joke that I've had to fire private lenders, and people go, how do you fire a private lender?
Sure.
And really it was just being green and not vetting people. But again, that could be fixed
That's true.
with buying people out. I forfeited properties to get out of partnerships that went bad.
Yeah.
So there's lots of failures along the way, but
Yeah.
I don't always see them that way. So I don't know that I have
Biggest
a
one.
big doom and gloom. My biggest fail, and I think it's because when I started this, I was below the ditch line. Like I had no further place down to go.
Right.
So
Sure. I hear you.
anything after that really is not that big of a deal.
Right. You can get through that. You can get through anything, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you, and I agree. I mean, failure. It's all about your perspective. Anything can be fixed. And interestingly enough, what you said about solving problems, I find that a lot of real estate investors mistakenly think that they're in the business of buying houses,
They're
and they're
not.
not. And that's why they're not making any money, because they're in the business of solving problems. So it's like if you just look for problems to solve, in fact, I believe that money is just a reward for solving a problem.
Hands
So
down,
yeah.
100%.
So anyway, all right. So that's yeah, we're gonna have to talk more about this. We don't have enough time in this one, but I want to get to some of these questions. I'm absolutely loving talking to you. We
Yeah.
have a ton in common. All right. So what advice would you give to someone just starting off? They say, hey, I want to be like you. I want to get involved in, real estate investing. I want to be a transaction engineer. What advice?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that problem solving
Okay.
thing, and that's where I stood out amongst. So I'm from Springfield, Missouri,
Okay.
and we're a college town, but we have a lot of real estate investors here.
Okay.
And I have a lot of competitors.
Yeah.
And I don't even feel like they're competitors because nobody can buy everything for starters.
Yeah.
And what stand out against those other investors is I don't take no for an answer very well. So when someone tells me, no, you can't do that because this is what's wrong with the title, I say, how can I do that?
Gotcha.
Tell me how I can fix that. Tell me what I can do next. And there's a lot of deals I closed that nobody else in this city could close because they got told no.
Gotcha.
And even I bought one from another investor and he's like, it's unclosable. And I'm like, watch me close it. And we did, because I said, how can I close it? And you will be surprised how many people will help you when you just say, how can I?
I agree. It's a completely different mindset. Yeah. It forces something totally different. It's a different conversation. I'm with you 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference.
Okay. That's fantastic. By the way, which have you been in multiple Ron LeGrand programs, or were there a particular one that you multiples? Okay.
I have done it all. I have got a college education over there.
I love it. Let's see here. I'm bouncing around a little bit. Tell me about some of the best resources that have helped you along the way.
Hands down is my title company here in town.
Okay,
so I know
nice.
a lot of states close differently. So some states have to close with attorneys.
Okay.
For me, I have two great attorneys because I believe if you're doing business, you're going to need an attorney, period.
Yeah, sure.
And then my title gal will advise me and help me find a solution for just about anything.
Okay.
So they can be your worst enemy or they can be your best friend.
Oh yeah.
Those two people, and then a really good accountant that understands real estate, I think is those are the biggest foundation. Now I preface that with, go do some deals and then worry about those people.
Gotcha.
You don't need to go get those people when you're still reading the material.
Right. Okay. Get out there and do something, and don't. Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah. It's like the person who wants to get, an expensive LLC set up and all of this different stuff before you even get one deal, before you even make one call, one appointment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So no, I'm with you 100%. So so tell me, and I have a sneaky suspicion I know who one of these people might be, but tell me 3 people that have influenced you the most in your career or just in your life, or a combination.
Oh, that's a big question. So I'm gonna go number 1 is probably my dad.
Okay.
So that sounds like the Oscar speech, but when I grew up, he was an on the road salesman.
Wow.
And I remember he always said, dress the part of what you want to be.
Okay.
And be like those people as far as whoever it is you're going to talk to. You don't want to wear a double-breasted button-up suit to go to a rural area. Okay. You want to just be like kind. People understand like kind people. And he taught me the foundations of your name is all you go out of this world with.
Okay.
So no one cares about your money or your credit score, but did you keep your word, and does your name have honor? And so through everything I've done, I've kept that at the forefront. And if I don't like something and it doesn't fit well with that, my name's on the line. And so I'm ready to get out of Dodge if that's the case. Okay. So he had a lot of business wisdom that he shared along the way. He's still with us. So I frequently will pick up the phone and just be like, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? And that's pretty cool to have that still in my world. 2 other people I will say are Ron LeGrand, because I just simply would have no idea about this world, to have brought myself back out of the ditch. Okay. And then, so he really did change my life. Even though my exit strategy is slightly different than what he does, when he found out what I was doing, he also is the one that was like, young lady, you're going to start teaching people. And I was like, no, Ron, no, I don't speak in front of people. So he also inspired that business model of sharing my story. So that's really cool. And I would say my third person would be Richard Flint. I don't know if you're familiar with
No.
him. He is kind of life coach, mentor, therapist, whatever you want to call. Um, he really, everyone goes through this life with the best childhood or the worst childhood, good marriages, bad marriages, business, and we blend it with someone else who's coming into the same thing with those things.
Yeah.
And so he became a part of mine and Brandon's lives probably around 2015 or 2016. And he's just really kept us lined out and focused on what's most important to us and not to let that business thing overtake your family and your priorities and your morals, and has just been a really great influence to keep us sane
Yeah.
through this whole thing of life and business and working together and living together and raising kids together. And I think he's kind of our lifeline that keeps us rejuvenated.
I love that. And you mentioned something earlier. I mean, you said that you don't even know how many properties that you have now.
Yeah.
And I know. Well, I guess what I want to know is, I mean, how many do you think you have? I mean, that sounds like a lot. If you don't even know, I mean,
Well, so here's why I don't know.
okay,
A lot of investors cash flow off of a property.
okay,
We have college kids. So to
I
us,
see.
each person is a
That's the
piece.
asset. Gotcha.
So it's looked at a little differently. I'm going to guess we're probably somewhere short of 100, and
That's
that
crazy.
could include apartments, duplexes, triplexes, that kind of thing.
Okay, I'm with you.
Um,
I'm with you.
yeah, and what's really cool about this concept is I have met investors all over, and they're like, I want 1,000 doors, and
Yeah.
if I hit 1,000 doors at $200 a month, that's where I want to be. And I'm thinking, that sounds so miserable.
Hmm.
And I only want like 100. Like I don't really need more than that forever.
Gotcha. It's
Right?
just about the profit. It's about the money.
Yes.
Got
And
it.
so that's
Okay.
why I loved this concept. It was so much easier on the management side of things.
Okay.
I didn't have to go into this like, we got to scale. We got to
Yeah.
scale. I don't have to live that life. And so now that I have it up and running and all the systems in place,
Yeah.
I don't have to work those 80, 100-hour weeks anymore. I get to have fun
Sure.
now.
That is fantastic. I really like that. And I really like, I mean, it's interesting. Of the people that I've spoken to, the investors that I've talked to, I've only talked to a few that have a completely different concept and mindset. I mean, and I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, if 1,000 doors is your thing, hey, that's cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's I think it makes a difference um when you kind of make it your own. You have you develop your own business model, and maybe you're looking at two people are looking at the exact same scenario, but one person, like you said, one person walks away and says, hey, this is impossible. The other person says, oh my gosh, thank you. You make 5 deals out of it or whatever. So I love that, and I love hanging around with those types of people because I think that stuff rubs off on you. You start thinking, what would
Yes.
Dixie do on this deal? I gotta. I love that. So, um, if you were in my shoes asking the questions here, I mean, what would you ask you? I mean, what am I not seeing? What would you like people to know that I'm not asking you about?
I would just say, so this is a probably personal to my niche.
Okay.
And I hear this a lot of places, and people say, oh my gosh, student housing, you're crazy. The same thing I said to Brandon when he told me about it.
Yeah.
And what I always would say is, I was the broke girl. I've already been there. So everything I've built this business on has been for security. So
Okay.
I love my college students. They leave my houses cleaner than my single family rentals.
Wow.
Mostly because their parents are co-signing. So who do you
Nice.
think comes down and cleans up after them?
I love it.
And then my next question would be to investors out there is, are you more comfortable with one or two guarantors on your leases, AKA husband, wife? I don't care what the combination is actually. One or two people, or how about 4 college kids and 3 sets of parents?
Oh my
What do you think your
gosh.
chances are of getting paid every month?
Oh my gosh. It's a no-brainer.
So when people say, oh my God, I've done college housing, I would never again, I just want to say you're a bad landlord. You didn't do it right. That's it. Because at the end of this next coming month, actually, I only do move outs in May, June, and July.
Okay.
I don't have to move anyone in and out any other time of the year. And being in Springfield, Missouri, where we have ice on the ground in the winter, it's lovely
Yeah.
to not do that in the winter. And that last week of May or the last 2 days of May, we'll have probably 30 units move out and we'll have 30 move in on June 1st. And it'll go like clockwork and they're move in ready. So I ask other landlords, how many weeks did it take you to turn over your house that someone moved out of? That's a
Wow.
loss of income. So if you're not turning them over in 24 hours, you've got a landlord problem, not a tenant problem.
Okay. So I can see why Ron LeGrand is telling you you should be speaking. I mean, what you're doing is brilliant. And nobody's even, I mean, yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, that's that is amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I love that. So how can people reach out to you? How can people connect with you? And I got one more question to ask, but I want to know how to.
Yeah. So I'm on social medias. I'm just on there under my personal name right now. I actually shut down all of my business teaching stuff because I don't
Oh,
know if I want to teach it live anymore.
okay.
But I have a website, dixiedecker.com, and then you can find some stuff on YouTube. I have, I don't know, probably 300 free teaching videos on there. And if I start doing events and stuff again, if you've been to either of those pages, you'll start getting notifications if you want to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm a really bad marketer in that business because I'm not going to stalk you with emails.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm on there and really my socials, I just share a lot about my real life and kind of what I'm doing now. And then I sprinkle in some real estate now. So kind of living the life I want to live right now. But
I love that. And I was kind of stalking you a little bit, and that's how I learned how important Brooks was. Yeah, to your grandmother, I guess. How does that? What is the story about that? That was whose bucket list was that?
So it's my bucket list item, but my
Okay.
grandmother, I was 10 or 11 years old probably. And back in that day and time, there was no internet yet.
Okay.
So what you had to do was show up to a local gathering place and you got a ticket for entering the door.
Yeah.
And then you sat in this arena all day long, hoping they would call your number
Oh
so
my
your
goodness.
family could buy 2 tickets or 4 tickets or whatever. So my grandmother took me early in the morning. We waited in line to get our ticket. Then we got inside and we waited all day long for our number to be called. And then he sold out.
Oh
And
no.
so we never got the opportunity to even buy tickets. And then shortly after, he retired. And so I never got to go to a concert. And then my grandmother passed away. And so I never got to go with her. And then my husband, this was a gift to me, was these tickets to see Garth Brooks. And pretty close to us. It was only a couple hours away.
Yeah.
And so it was everything it could have been. It was that and then more, then some.
That is great. I love that. I love that. So, last question for you, because I could literally talk to you all day, and I will be stalking you because I want to talk to you some more. So, all right. If you Google the term real estate investor failure rate, okay, you'll see that 95% of real estate investors fail. That's a huge number. It's a real number. And so I want to know two things from you. One, I want to know how you define the word unstoppable. And I want to know when it came to achieving success, and you've alluded to some of this already, but when it came to achieving success in an industry with a 95% failure rate, how did you make yourself unstoppable?
This is a really hard one. And you're right, I've kind of talked about it throughout this whole
Yeah,
thing.
you have.
I think, and I was listening, I can't remember what it was an audiobook or a podcast I was listening to, and it came down to one word for me. And I was like, that's it. That's the difference. And I'm going to say this before I give you my word, my one word.
Okay.
You and I were chatting and you said, hey, Dixie, do you know any other females that I can chat with in this industry? And so there's very few I could actually send to you that I know do the business and, you know, that kind of thing. And here's the really interesting part. Real estate investing is already not in favor of women.
Sure.
It's a very male dominated industry still.
Yeah.
And so not only do I have to fall back on my word I'm going to tell you as a real estate investor, but even more so as a female real estate investor, because I cannot tell you how many times I am just discounted at the forefront because of being a female.
Wow.
We'll go to club meetings and stuff, and people will go up to my husband and say, dude, what do you got for sale right now? What's going on? And he's like, I don't have a clue. Dixie does everything. And they're like, no, come on, dude. I saw you guys are selling such and such. He's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So they're forced to have to come back to me, even though maybe I was the one that sent it out. I'm the one that posted about it. It's just a very male dominated industry, including bankers, appraisers, insurance agents. It's so male dominated. So any woman that's going into this needs to be aware of it, I believe.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to grit for me. I think my one word to be unstoppable, or how can I be in that top 5% of successful real estate investors, is having grit. It goes back to don't take no for an answer. You really have to be very strong-minded and strong-willed, but with the ability to have kindness and the how can I do this? And all of that takes grit. I don't know what the definition of that word is.
Yeah.
But it's grit. It's just taking it on and going for it. Again, I had no other option. So for me, I was working out of survival, and that kind of equals grit for me.
Sure.
And a lot of people I've met along the way that are in that 95% are pretty comfortable already in life. Yeah. They have a day job that's just enough. And I'm not putting anybody down.
Sure.
It's just where I've seen a lot of people, it's like they're in that comfort zone. And even though you're not always happy in that comfort zone, it achieves kind of what you want it to achieve. And so there's no real push. There's no fire that is make it or break it. And that's grit for me. Yeah. I really just believe I had nothing else. I hadn't graduated college. I was a single mom feeding 2 kids. So I just had to like dig in and do it. Yeah. And I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. If Ron said, this is how you do it, I did it. Wow. And then I found student housing and kind of combined the two. Yeah. But I didn't leave and reinvent stuff. I just did it. But I was an A+ student. So it goes very well with my personality. I'm checking the blocks and this is what I do. Yeah. So grit, that's it for me. It's just grit.
I love that. I'm considering changing the name of this podcast to the grit. We'll see. But I love that. And I really appreciate your time. It's interesting. I mean, it doesn't take long to know whether or not you connect with people, because it's interesting. I've talked with people who I took someone's word that they were a successful investor, and they, and I just pulled them on the podcast and it was not good. And, but other times it just takes just a couple of minutes to know, man, this person, and just even when the last time when the sound faded and we were talking, I called you, we were talking, we were laughing and joking, just even in those 2 minutes or something. I was like, this person. So I really appreciate getting to know you. And one of the things that's been great about this podcast is just having, and it's funny, I say podcast, my wife says, that's not a podcast, it's a video. I mean, it's, and I said, well, honey, okay. And I'm married up, so I got to listen to my wife, but anyway, it's a great way to meet people that I may have not otherwise met. And I get to learn so much from people. And I don't know that I would ever have a chance to meet a person like you. So I love the time we spent, and I would like to do it again. And I would like to learn more about, so when are you going to decide whether or not you're going to do more teaching and live events, or is that kind of up in the air forever? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. So funny question, and I may be putting the cart before the horse, but I am currently chatting with some folks about promoting my products for me so
Okay.
that I can continue to teach my stuff through a digital format
Okay.
without being tied down to an airplane and a suitcase and hotel rooms.
Sure.
And
Okay.
so I do currently have my student housing program built out 100% digitally. And then everything I taught virtually over the COVID period has
Yeah.
been saved into that database.
Okay.
And then secondly, I actually just finished creating a QuickBooks program for real estate investors because it's something that's missing out there that cost me tens of thousands of dollars
Okay.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I actually spent the last 12 months building that program with my accountant, not
Okay.
knowing what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah.
So it's built out digitally. And I'm visiting with a few promoters to see if there's somebody that wants to build out that marketing and get it out to the people
Okay.
so that they can purchase it and learn more.
Okay.
So I don't know what that looks like just yet, but I'm kind of working on that so that it's the piece that I dislike is the marketing and the selling
Gotcha.
of programs, but I love teaching it.
I see.
I get a lot of reward from people's energy and just seeing like, yes, this is the piece, this makes sense.
Okay.
So, and of course, though, I want to make a little money along the line because
Sure.
I also think if you don't have skin in the game, you're not vested to make a change in your life. And so anyway, so I love the teaching part. I just don't like the other side of it. So I'm
Sure.
kind of looking someone to partner up with, and then we'll see how those programs get out to people again.
Nice. I love it. Will you please keep me posted? And for sure we'll talk again. Are you open to that? I mean, I don't want to be hounding and chasing you and you hanging up the phone on me.
I have a lot of fun with Q&As. They're probably my favorite thing.
Okay, cool. Well, then I will reach out to you. And again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And so you mentioned Garth Brooks, he's retired now or what?
Well, no, he retired back in maybe the late 90s. He retired. I can't remember exactly when, but he retired to raise his daughters.
Oh,
and he didn't want to be on the road. And now they're all like in college and stuff. And so he came back out and he's doing a stadium tour now.
Oh, nice.
And,
okay.
It wasn't like it's been 20 years. It was great.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, good. Well, thanks again for your time, Dixie. We'll talk again real soon. Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Bye now.